Jay Watson,
What's
Happy
up,
New
Kyle
Year.
Wiltshire? Happy New Year to you, man.
It's exciting.
We survived Christmas and we've got made it through the new year, and it is 2025.
It is. You know, I'm fond of saying that I can remember 1985 with just pristine clarity.
Yeah.
But I can't remember last year. And that just hit me there. That was 40 years ago. 1985 was 40 years. Back to the Future is 40 years old this year. Can you believe it?
40.
Whew. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's makes me feel old, but I don't feel old now that we're back on the podcast together. It's good to be back together. It's good to be back in the saddle in the brand new year. So Jay, we just got through Christmas. I'm curious, do you have a Christmas gift that you're super excited to share with the world? Something that you were really excited about?
Yeah, I got this yesterday. Actually, it was a little bit late.
Oh.
Came in late. It was ordered, a special edition order. See if I can get these things to come out so you can see them. My daughter Hope, she got me some special edition playing cards.
Oh, wow.
And if you look, the playing cards have individual pictures on them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is so cool. How fun.
This is one of my favorite Watson girl pictures.
The Four of Hearts right there.
Yeah, look at that.
The Wonder Twins. There they are. Wow.
So I thought that was really quite thoughtful.
What a clever gift.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful that I don't know if you want to play with them, but you want to play with them.
No, I don't. Like I'm probably just gonna, show them off. It'll be a showpiece.
Yeah, put them in like some type of really cool frame or something where they're all displayed. That's awesome.
Yeah,
very cool. Nice
What
gift.
about you?
Little late, but nice gift.
But I'm gonna guess that jacket / pullover, that cardigan is a Christmas present.
This is a Christmas present. My mother-in-law gave me this, but the one that I wanted to show and tell to the world from my daughter Lily, she got me this beautiful new mug here with the U2 cassettes all the way around. You can see Octoon Baby, my favorite, right there. All the way back to Boy, starting with Boy.
Where does it end?
It ends with No Line on the Horizon there. That's
okay.
So it doesn't have the Songs of Innocence or the Songs of Experience or the Songs of Disappointment, the last quadruple album.
Man, anytime I go and I'm on U2X radio and I see a song and I'm like, this is gonna be great. And then I just happen to glance over and I see that it's the album cover of that latest one where they just messed everything up.
Yeah.
And I just go next. I don't even slow down. I don't even attempt to accept it.
There's a couple that aren't bad, but as I'm fond of saying, those songs sound like a band who vaguely sounds like U2 covering U2.
Yeah.
To me, I know it's harsh, but yeah, they just, don't like the new lyrics, don't like a lot of the arrangements. So call me old, call me whatever.
I'm writing something down because I want to bring it up later that's connected to what you're talking about. So we'll bring it up when it comes to my best of.
I'll try to remember that. Now, Jay, also, we exchange gifts to one another off camera.
We did.
And I am excited for me to show the world the kind, thoughtful gift that you gave me. And then I'm mortified for you to show the world the not very kind, not very thoughtful gifts that I gave you.
Oh, I don't think that's accurate at all. If you look closely, you can see them perched in the background a little bit. There is a VHS tape of Wayne's World that is from, I guess, 1990 or whenever it came out. And then
92.
Also, I've got it hidden. I'll pull it out later. But the other one you can see over there, over my other side of the shoulder, is Star Trek: The Original Motion Picture. With this one having the bonus footage, the extra 12 minutes of them just floating around a spaceship model,
right? Much the slow space ballet. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk and Scotty taking 12 minutes to go from the dock to the Enterprise. I remember that.
That was not warp speed. That would be the opposite of warp speed, whatever that was.
That was not. So the thought behind this was that these were things that we've talked about or mentioned in the podcast, and I thought that would be fun, especially coming from me, the old guy in the group.
So there's the other one.
Yes, Master and Commander.
That would be Master and Commander, and that's one that I've never seen the end of that movie. And so Kyle was like, "You can dust off your VHS player, and you can see the end. You can see what happens. You can watch them both Master and Command, I guess.
You can find out how that movie ends."
Yeah.
For the listeners that may not remember, Jay, I don't believe I was there, Jay. I think you were there without me at this one, but Jay went to the movie Master and Commander, and the reel broke. I mean, this is 2002 or 2005 or whenever. I don't remember exactly when that was. And the reel broke within the last 5 minutes. And the theater owners were like, "Sorry."
Yeah. I know Gary Greg Jackson was there. I thought and I assumed that you were there with us because I feel like, everything from going to Piccadilly at 4:45 to, everything else we kind of did together for that time.
It's fun to eat at 4:30 p.m. I'll tell you that.
It's fun to eat at 4:30 p.m. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the joke behind those. So Jay, here's what you kindly gave me. This is beautiful. You made me a very nice Christmas ornament with the cover of our book on there. So very cool. That'll hang on my tree from now until forever, and remind us of what we did together, the book we wrote together.
What we did together. That's exactly right.
It's exciting. So thank you for that.
You claim it to be thoughtful, and I appreciate that. But there's some selfishness motivated in there. That gift came as a pair. So I have one on my tree as well.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean,
nothing wrong with that.
We co-wrote it. I think we should,
That's right. 50-50 always.
Yeah. So,
oh, good deal.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for tonight's episode, Jay, because, when you come to the end of a year, which we just ended 2024, we just started 2025, we talked about Entertainment Weekly in our last episode, or different publications, different people make their best of lists, their end of year lists, the things that this are my favorite, or this was the best, this is whatever for the end of the year. And I thought it'd be a fun thing to do with our episode tonight, our first episode of 2025. If we sort of look back over 2024 and gone over and go over some of our favorite things and talk about some of the things that we liked from 2024. Some different, you have different categories from me of things that you want to talk about, some different things that I want to talk about, but it'll be much like most of our episodes. We'll talk about movies and music and different things that we enjoyed throughout the year. So yeah, how's that sound? Do you like that?
Yeah, man, that sounds great. Let's do it. You lead the way.
All right. So, let me fire up my list here. I was trying to think of a way to think about, what we did this year, some of the things that we talk about on this podcast, some of the things we enjoy. Mm-hmm. And so instead of just doing the straight up like best movie I saw in 2024 or my favorite movie that I saw in 2024, I thought that I would go with the movie I couldn't stop thinking about in 2024.
Oh, that's
so
great.
It's not the best movie I saw in 2024. Yeah. It's not my favorite movie by any stretch of 2024, but it's the movie I couldn't shake. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I don't know if I've told you much about this, but this movie, I actually saw it in the theaters a couple of months ago, is the movie Conclave from what? I'm going to have to pull up all the credentials.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a Fiennes in it, right? And he
Ralph Fiennes is the lead.
Is that Voldemort as well?
He is Voldemort. He is heavily made up Voldemort. But here he's in his more basic face.
There's an Instagram meme of this woman who dresses up differently for her husband in the car to surprise him, and there's one where she's dressed up like Voldemort. And he yelps like he's like.
She just freaks him out.
Yeah, totally freaks him out.
So Conclave, I think it came out in like October of 2024. It's directed by Edward Berger. I'm not sure what else. All Quiet on the Western Front, the remake of All Quiet on the Western Front from Netflix in 2022. And he's done some other things.
We talked about this so briefly. I think it's because I made fun of you because I said something like, "Did you get your AARP discount for going to see that in the theater?" But it does. I mean, it is kind of interesting. Is the setup kind of a thing where they're like basically the whole movie's in one room?
So Here's the basic premise for anyone who's not heard of the movie, don't know anything about it. It's called Conclave because it's the whole point of the movie is for the Catholic cardinals to gather and to pick a new pope. And on the surface, that sounds like, oh my gosh, that sounds so boring. Could you think of anything, less exciting? But the reason I listened to it is because I listened to the podcast and they were talking about it, how it sort of had the kind of 90s, the films that we love from the 90s, sort of the vibe of the films we love from the 90s, in that it was you don't really know what's going to happen next. It's kind of at every point in the film, you think you got a beat on where it's going, and then it kind of takes a turn, or you think, okay, it's going in this direction, and it kind of shifts. But it is the simple.
What's a 90s example of that?
I was thinking maybe of something like A Time to Kill, one that's sort of like
a Michael Crichton kind of twists and turn.
It's not a whodunit, but it very much has a like suspenseful edge because kind of the point of the movie is they're picking a new pope. So the pope kind of suddenly dies. And the cardinal is Ralph Fiennes. He's the lead cardinal. He's going to lead the whole meeting, the whole conclave of all the cardinals to come in, and they're going to do their voting process and everything, write their names on slips of paper. And, it's very like they've done it the same way since like 1640 or, whatever. I don't know, when it would have started, but so they're writing it on paper. They're putting in ballots. They pull them out. They read them. And so just when you think, okay, this is the guy that's, got the edge, something comes out about his past, or something comes out, that kind of turns the whole tide of everything. And then there's like mysterious people that kind of show up. There's this nun who sort of pops up. Isabella Rossellini plays her, and she's kind of got some information, and she, kind of steers the plot for a minute. And then there's this guy that shows up who's the cardinal of the church in Afghanistan, and nobody knows he even existed. And he just shows up at the conclave, and they're like, hey, the last pope did this in secret because he didn't want the world to know that there was a Catholic church in Afghanistan. They'd face persecution or whatever. So this guy's, he's got his credentials. He's a cardinal, even though nobody in the world knew he was a cardinal.
Do you have like a license, like a cardinal license? Is there like a lanyard? Like, what are you getting?
I don't know. I don't know. But it's kind of, it's kind of an interesting film because the lead cardinal, Ralph Fiennes' character, again, he's probably going to get nominated for an Academy Award for this role because he's really good in it. At the same time, he was very close to the Pope, but at the same time, as he's having to lead the process of electing a new Pope, he's having a crisis of faith. He's struggling to pray. He's struggling to, believe in the process. And it's got every, like either number 2 or number 3 actor in every movie you've ever loved in your life, like pop up, and like Stanley Tucci is in this movie. Who's the dad from Harry and the Hendersons?
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow's in this movie. So I mean, it's really well acted.
You lost me with Stanley Tucci. I don't know that I've ever thought to myself, man, I love this guy as number 2, number 3. But no, John Lithgow's a different story. That guy, I think I can do anything, and he's in everything, and I'm a fan.
Tucci's surprisingly good, man. When he shows up, he's surprisingly good.
He's coming to bring the thunder.
And he, he's the smiley guy in the Hunger Games trilogy, So, or I guess it's 4. There's 4 of those. So anyway, that was the movie I couldn't stop thinking about. It is, it does to some degree take place within the same room, but they move in and out of the Vatican. They go to different places. Yeah. They go into the cafeteria but I can't really say why. It stayed in my mind for so long, why I kept thinking about it and reflecting on it and going back to it.
Plot point.
There is a sixth sense twist at the end of this movie that I did not see coming, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. So I'm not saying that it's a great movie. I'm not saying that it's something that everybody needs to run out. It was not a 90s vibe movie after I saw it. I think that was a little bit of a misnomer to call it that. But it's interesting. It's interesting. I'll say that. And I enjoyed watching it, and I have just dwelled on it, thought about it. Okay. So I would encourage you, if you care about, different kind of movies. There's no action.
Yeah. Sometimes you're looking for a little bit different, something that doesn't have aliens or whatever in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that's going to make you think. When the movie's over, you're going to think. You're gonna have some thoughts. So that's my recommendation. I on a lightning bolt scale. Don't have my lightning bolt out. I see yours behind the back of your head. I'd go like 2 3/4 lightning bolts
Okay.
out of 5.
You don't regret seeing it.
Mm-mm.
It made you think, but it's not high art.
It's decent, but it's not like man, I want to keep coming back. I want to watch that over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not going to pass the DirecTV flipping through the channels test.
No. It's got some interesting things to say about faith. It's got some interesting things to say about, just the world in 2024 that we lived in and the world that we're coming toward.
Conclave, though, you actually made me want to watch it. So,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Not great, but interesting. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. So I went a little bit more traditional approach with my sections. Just kind of want to highlight, kind of looking back the best of 2024 in a few areas. And, I thought quite a bit about some of this, and we'll hit, since you did movies, we'll hit up my best of 2024 movies. A lot of these we've already talked about on this podcast over the last 8 episodes, and there were ones that I wanted to talk about. And so as I went back and looked month to month as to what came out, I remember these films, and I decided to pick these based on the ones that, great for what they are is probably a good way to say it.
Yeah.
I did recently watch Furiosa, the Mad Max saga, and I thought it was a really good movie. Like, I had a lot of fun in it, but it's like an honorable mention. It's not on the list because there's some pretty rough plot holes. And so most of these films that I picked have pretty tight plot devices, pretty tight stories, with the exception of one. In no particular order, Jason Reitman's Saturday Night film is I've watched it twice now, and I don't typically do that. I just, the way he zigs and zags and tells that story and makes you feel like you're there for that particular special night 50 years ago. Yeah. It was just fantastic.
What streamer is that on?
I don't know. You can definitely watch it digitally.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's on a streamer. I think maybe not yet. I think it's one of those you can purchase or rent. But I thought that the actresses and the actors, the people that were in that film, like, just did some great stuff. And like, I wouldn't be surprised if it were nominated for an award somewhere, just because it is a really well done biopic in a way. And also it manages to juggle so many famous people and get the spirit of the moment of what they were going through that night was really, really great. And so I just, I don't know, it checked all the boxes for me as far as a really good story that was really well done, and I enjoyed it. I actually went back and watched the first episode of Saturday Night Live this past week.
What was that like?
It's hot garbage. I think there's probably maybe 3 skits, sketches, and the sketches are I don't know, under 5 minutes. Like, there's multiple music acts. George Carlin gets up there, and I mean, he does probably 3 or 4 bits, and they're not good. You've probably heard them before. It's like the ones you make fun of George Carlin for, like, was there no blue? There's no blue food. I want blue, that kind of stuff. And then there's a female comedian who gets up there, and I literally don't know what she's doing. Like, people are clapping for her, and I'm just terrified and embarrassed. And I'm like, wow, I don't know why that was funny in 1977. But even Jim Henson's Muppet scene, you're like, what is happening in this Muppets?
I've struggled when I watch any SNL from the 70s, I'm like, how did this show make it? I think it was contextually funny for them, even stuff that's legendary now, like Steve Martin's King Tut. I'm like, what is funny about this? I don't understand it. I don't get at all why people think this is hilarious to see, it's just Steve Martin, dancing in his jammies or whatever, I'm like, I don't get it. What's funny?
Let's put it in context a little bit. Kevin Hart right now, he can do anything and people will laugh at him. It doesn't even matter what he's saying. Like, he is ubiquitous at the moment, I would say.
Yeah.
That was what Steve Martin was at that time. Steve Martin could just look into the camera and people would think it was hilarious. And
put an arrow through his head.
Yeah, he was just a weirdo, man. Like, you go back and watch that stuff, it was just really weird, and the whole point of it was to be weird. Yeah. And people wanted that. In 1977, they wanted to go. They were tired of the serious. They were tired of the movements. They just wanted something zany, and he was kind of one of those right place, right time kind of people. And so, watching him dressed up like King Tut doing his dances is like, it's like watching Kevin Hart in the Olympics right now or whatever. You're just like, man, him and Snoop, they can comment on anything and it could be great.
Right.
Another one that made my list that I was kind of surprised because I'm going to put it in the conclave kind of category. And also I noticed a theme. 2024 was a pretty big year for this particular actor. The Bike Riders is a film that I thought was just really, really great. It's another one of those era films where they take a slice out of life that you don't really know anything about and you learn about it. And it's this beginning of this Harley, bike club, these bike clubs that show up and where they come from and why. And I felt a pretty big connection. I thought that Austin Butler was fantastic in it. I've been very worried for a long time that Austin Butler was going to be nothing but Elvis. And in 2024, he managed to accomplish wiping that out of our memories from his performances. Yeah. And I think Jodie Comer might have been the actress.
She's
in Bike
the
Riders.
female lead.
Have you seen it?
No, I just remember the commercials, but Tom Hardy, and it's got a lot of stars in it.
And it's I don't know. I think one night I was kind of bored and I was like, this kind of looks like a Pony Boy movie, whatever that
Outsiders.
Yeah, it kind of looks like The Outsiders. Let's see what's going on here. And it's just it's almost like a documentary of that moment, of that time. And somebody did that. It's true story kind of stuff. Like, somebody followed around this bike gang that started from nothing and became something and kind of documented over a period of time. And I just thought it was really great. And I think it's worth a watch. And I think it's not anything revelatory, but it is very well done and very enjoyable, and one of my highlights for 2024.
I think that if we were going to do just like your standard best of or favorite, whatever, I think my favorite would have been Dune 2. Just think of Austin Butler theme, would have been my favorite or best of movie from 2024.
That's next, on my list there is.
I read your mind.
Yeah. I mean, it would be not only best of for 2024, but also one that I thought a lot about. Like, I thought a lot about how they did some of the things they did. And I don't know. I don't know of many. The second movie sometimes is a hard one to stick. And I just felt like they, in every way, stuck it. The bad guy was amazing. All of the performances were great. And all of the story was the right tone. And like, it took you down a trip. And I think Dune 1, if you're not a Dune person, Dune 1 is one of those movies like, what am I watching? Like, what is this? And Dune 2 is like, oh, I know a little bit about this world, and this is fascinating, and this is amazing. And so, and Austin Butler stole the show. I mean, he was phenomenal. He was an amazing bad guy. To explain so little about who he was, it didn't matter. Like, he chewed up that screen, chewed it up.
Yeah, I love Dune 2. I mean, obviously it has the benefit of just being the second half of the first book. They split the book into two movies, so it wasn't a traditional sequel in the sense of, it's book 2 or whatever. But I have also spent a lot of time thinking about that movie, and I kind of come at storytelling or films or books or whatever from a real simple sort of black and white often perspective of like, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy. And it's interesting that, Paul Atreides in that story is clearly the protagonist. He's the main character, but is he a good guy when it's all said and done, So it's kind of interesting. I appreciate that nuance in storytelling, and I certainly enjoyed the film, the product that it gave us.
Yeah. I'm excited that we get more of that. I don't really know. I haven't read those books, and so I don't really know where we're going. But I don't think it's good. I don't think it's anywhere good.
Yeah, I haven't. I've only read the first one, but I find it hilarious and interesting that Chalamet has done 2 Dune movies now, and then he comes out with this Bob Dylan movie, And it's like, this is all I've been thinking about for the last 5 years. And I'm like, when? So apparently this Dylan thing was supposed to happen a lot earlier, but then COVID, but then strike, and then, all this stuff. And so like he's been learning apparently for 5 years to sing and play guitar and harmonica like Bob Dylan. And he finally got to do it in this film. It's crazy.
I read somewhere a story where he pulled out a guitar on the set of Dune with Oscar Isaac and I think maybe Josh Brolin, and was like, let me show you what I've been working on. And they told him what they were doing. And they were basically like, I don't know that you should do that. And then he played and they were like, oh, we get it. And Oscar Isaac, he more or less plays a version of Dylan in a Coen Brothers film, right?
Yeah. What was that movie called? Gracious. I was just thinking about that the other day. Anyway, but yes, it is basically a Bob Dylan. Well, it's Bob Dylan if he didn't break. If he didn't make it big, but still the same sort of, I think people are pretty fond of saying that Bob Dylan in those younger years maybe still was kind of a jerk, because he was so like committed to his art and his passion and all this stuff. So yeah, that's sort of the perspective of what would happen if Bob Dylan didn't make it big.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, that's right.
I felt like we had to tie a bow on that. That was going to bother me, I think.
Yeah, me too. I was talking, hoping that as I was talking, it was going to come to my brain what that movie was called.
I don't think that title would have. Maybe it would have. I don't know.
It wasn't going to get there. Yeah.
I've got just two more. Well, two more on my list. One we really don't have to cover very much, but 2024 for me, a highlight. Deadpool and Wolverine, I thought was just sheer fun. And I'm glad that they made it, and I was glad I got to see it. I'm glad I got to see Wolverine wear the mask and in the yellow, and it was great.
I kicked around, if again for a category, best time in the theater for this year, and it would have been Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah. Was my best time in the movie theater.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think probably the biggest surprise for me in a movie I saw this year. I don't know why. And maybe it's going to tell my age a little bit, but I still don't necessarily see the legitimacy of like a Netflix film. Like it's almost like I'm thinking about it's like straight to DVD or whatever. Like they couldn't really make it in the theaters, but Netflix is putting out some stuff that maybe it wouldn't do well in the theater, but like it's still great. And for me, Rebel Ridge was a film that I felt like it checked all the boxes. It told a story I didn't expect. It shined a light on things that I didn't really expect. And even the twists and the turns that they made, I just loved them. I loved every choice that they made. And that actor should be the next Black Panther. There's no doubt in my mind. He's great.
I think he does one of the voices maybe in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I recently watched with my sons on Netflix. Now, that was a movie. But my goodness, how did you not get me to watch that movie sooner? It was so good.
It's fantastic.
It blew me away how good that movie was.
No, I mean,
I got choked up 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
No, that's not hard for me. I get choked up easy.
It is a fantastic. And I mean, I think if you go look at the Rotten Tomato score and stuff like that, you realize it is universally praised. And like even just what they do visually in those films are just fantastic. And
it's unparalleled. The visual
there's nothing
element.
Nothing like it.
I mean, and they need to make the third one. I as soon as it was over, I was Googling like, when's the third one come out?
Yeah.
And it's kind of in limbo right now, as if it's going to happen with the whole Sony Spider-Man. It's not on the slate as it's rumored to be 26 or 27.
Okay.
But it's not like,
well, I'm sure they're working on it because those things take years. Like that thing it's not just something they toss up.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great though. Sorry. I want to see Rebel Ridge. I kind of derailed us. I want to see Rebel Ridge.
It's okay.
That's one you recommended, and that sounds like a movie that's right up my alley. So it's one I'm going to check out.
I don't want to overhype it, but I'd like to properly hype it. Like it's one of my highlights for 2024.
Jay, if it were only on your best of list, I would be a little dubious, but but since it showed up on some like other like Real Movie Critic best of list for the year, I thought, this is definitely something I need to see. So good deal, man. Great list. I think we've covered quite a bit of those throughout the course of our
which actually
our show.
Made me happy. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So for my category number 2, I wanted to move away from movies and music and and media. And I wanted to reflect a little bit, spend some time reflecting on some of the stuff that we did at the beginning of the year. A big reason why we're doing this podcast right now is because we spent hours and hours on other people's podcasts at the start of the year. We were introduced to this platform called Podmatch. Basically, it's a podcast host and guest dating service, basically. Yeah. And I meant to go back and look, but it was going to be harder than I wanted it to be, so I just didn't do it. But we were probably on close to 40 podcasts. Yeah. There was a couple that you were on without me, and there's a couple that I was on without you. But most of them we were on together as co-guests. And man, we had a blast talking about the Dead Rock Stars on other people's podcasts. So I thought I would spend a few minutes and do a little best of our podcast experience, and maybe we could reminisce about some of the characters that we met, because we met some characters recording those shows.
Didn't you do one without me where the dude was a cat the whole time?
A cartoon cat.
He was a cartoon cat and never mentioned it.
When he first popped up, it was one of those like animations, that mirrors your movements. But yeah, he's a cartoon cat. I'm trying to remember what the name of that show was. And I was just going to go with it. I wasn't going to say anything about it. And so he didn't say anything about it. And when it was over, he was like, "You didn't say anything about the fact that I'm a cartoon cat." I was like, "Well, I just thought it was your thing, man." So yeah, exciting stuff. Yeah. So yeah, that was one that I was on by myself. So what I thought I'd do is, I think the best show that we were on, not necessarily because of the reach, or because of maybe the quality. It wasn't bad quality, but the one that I kind of remember the most, and I think the best show that we were on, my favorite show that we were on, was the Be Raw podcast with Walt Blau. I believe is his name, Blau. Yeah. What a dude, man. What a great dude. He sent us shirts when it was over for his show. I still wear those shirts. The Be Raw podcast. He is so faithful to like our stuff on Instagram and like encourage us. When he found out we were launching a podcast, he sent us several messages. We're like, "Go for it, guys. You can do this." So what a great dude Walt is. Check out his podcast. It's very different from ours. It's not of the same variety, but we had such a fun time talking with him. I thought he had a fire in his house while we were chatting. It was great stuff. What do you remember about Walt?
I'm surprised that was your number one pick, because that would have been my number one pick. I had the best time with Walt. I think my favorite thing about it, because you go on these podcasts and some people have we had paperwork we had to fill out and agree to, and had contracts, and we had homework that was given to us. And then there were others that were we didn't even know, we didn't know if the guy was going to show up. And when the guy did show up, it was a little scary in a couple of situations. One guy had the camera up on his neck rolls while we were talking to him, and it was wild. It was wild. But Walt was the one that was like, "Okay, listen, don't talk about your book. Don't worry, I will take you there. Yeah, we're just going to talk."
Yeah,
and we did. I mean, we had the best time talking to him about his life. And not only did I enjoy being on the podcast, but he talked to me about some stuff when he decided to make a job transition change that were really helpful and useful to me. And I still think about that today. And so I can't say enough good things about that Be Raw podcast. I thought that he was an excellent host, and I thought he did a great job kind of interviewing, but more than that, just kind of sharing his life with our life and talking. And big fan. I'm glad you mentioned him, and I'm glad you picked that one. That's great.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. We had a blast. Again, just chatting with him. When I'm talking about the fire, he had a graphic it was a candle. It was a candle in the back of his screen, and it wouldn't go out. And I was like, "Well, I think your house might be on fire." He laughed so hard he lost it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. I was like, I don't want this guy's house to burn down while we're on this podcast with him. It was quite funny. But so that was my favorite one that we appeared on together.
Yeah.
The best character that we came across. Now, we came across some characters, but I think the best character that we came across would be Roadhouse. Do you remember Roadhouse from the
Yes,
Bumwine, the
Bob,
Bumwine Bob, his show? That dude.
Here's my favorite thing, Kyle. Before we got on, like we're like about to get on. Like there's not preparation for this, but this guy Bumwine goes, "Hey, we're going to talk about like cheap booze, wrestling, or sports. So whatever you want to talk about there." And I just thought to myself, I'm glad that there's wrestling because Kyle can carry that. I don't know what we're going to talk about sports, but like I think they were sponsored by Four Loko or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. And the more they drank, the more Roadhouse drank, the more encouraging he got. I felt so supported by Roadhouse. He still likes a bunch of our stuff. And that's like, they've been doing this podcast for like 8 or 10 years and they've never met in person. Like Roadhouse lives in Kentucky and Bumwine is like somewhere up north. And they've never like physically met each other, but they've been doing this podcast. They met in some Facebook group and they were very entertaining. A lot of fun.
They were a trip. Yeah. And Roadhouse was a hilarious dude. Yeah. I had forgotten.
That was not the most notable character that we charactered though.
Oh, who would you say is the biggest character?
I'd have to go back and look at it, but it's like political technology guy.
Oh yeah. Yes.
There's a guy who was like an IT guy in New York, and he literally argued with himself the entire podcast. He's like, no, I know what you're saying. I know what's in the comments. Like he just got like there were like these soliloquies he was giving about these arguments that he's having with no one.
Right.
And it was the most fun. Like I just sat there and was like, like say more. I don't need to say anything. You say more.
He was a trip. Yeah, that dude was a trip. The last category that I'll cover, just going down our memory lane of podcasts. I did one by myself. It was my favorite one that I did by myself was the R3 Lads podcast. Now this is a podcast where they cover 90s grunge and alternative music. That's like their thing. And I was really excited about this show because we did the top 5 songs of 1996, which is the year that I graduated high school. And this is one of the better produced podcasts that we were on, because every time I'd talk about a song or one of the other guys on the show would talk about a song, they'd play a snippet of it, and they did a great job editing and splicing in music. And so that one was just a whole lot of fun. And it just meant a lot to me because that was, 96 is a really special year to me. And I was really nervous because these two dudes, one of them came up in like alternative radio, like he was a DJ. One of them, I believe, was a musician, like he was, was in a band that was sort of kind of on the cusp.
Experts in their own right.
They were experts, and I was just a nervous wreck going into that. And I was doing it without you. I was flying solo, so I was like, "Oh man, my songs. They're going to either make fun of me for my songs because maybe they're too normie or whatever. They're not cool enough." And one dude, like 4 of his 5 songs were songs I had never heard of, and like most of them, like 2 or 3 of those songs were from groups from Wales, like the little itty bitty island nation that's connected to or part of the United Kingdom, Wales.
Okay.
And he was like, and I was like, who knew that the epicenter of rock music, alternative rock music, was in Wales in 1996? He was like, yeah, that's right. But so that one was just a lot of fun. That's one I've probably listened to that one 2 or 3 times just because I enjoyed it so much. Their editing was so great, and it was just fun. It was a fun podcast to do. So, and it was neat also because, like, we're talking about Bush, the band, and the dude was like, yeah, I met Gavin Rossdale one time. We walked through Target together. And I'm like, holy cow, what is my life right now? That I'm talking to somebody who has firsthand, knowledge of these people. The people that you and I talk about on this podcast, just for fun. And it's like, yeah, I met that guy. It was really crazy.
If I'm walking through Target with Gavin Rossdale, I am going to be going to the section and trying to find glycerine somewhere in that store. Like that's just happening.
He said he was completely ignored by all the female shoppers at Target that day that he got a lot of attention. He described that in a far more graphic way than I will on our podcast. But
Okay.
but he said that Gavin Rossdale was what you would call a looker, and the women noticed him.
Yeah. Well, there you go. If we're doing an honorable mention, the "What Are You Listening To" podcast I thought was really, really, really well done, and that was one of the ones where we got to kind of talk about. We got to pick a song, and we kind of got to talk about the song, and everybody brought one to the table, and that meant a lot to me. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. And there's another one. Boy, I can't remember the title of it, but it was a couple of ladies. How I Met My Best Friend is what it was called. How I Met My Best Friend. And we were pretty unique to their show because they didn't have a lot of men as guests. Mostly they had women as their guests. And so I thought it was really cool that we got to be a guest on that show and talk about our friendship, how we met, writing the book together, the music we love together, all those things. And I thought it was cool that we got to talk about our friendship. We got to talk about our big group of friends, our Copperhead Den friends, a little bit, and just share a little bit about how, hey, there are guys out there that have friendships that love one another, support one another. They'll still, mess with one another, thump each other in the nuts, whatever, when they're around each other. But still, it does happen. There are guys that have really great male friendships. And so I thought that was a really fun one too. That just sprang to mind when you're talking about that. So yeah, what a fun opportunity we had talking about our book on other people's podcasts, and it launched us into this. So what a cool thing we got to do in 2024.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have got a TV best of, and then I've got some music. Which one do you want to hit before, and I'll kind of, we got some more stuff to talk about, so I can kind of fly through these a little quicker.
Yeah. Hit the TV first.
So Apple TV for me right now is kind of in its golden age era as far as like making content. Like they don't miss a whole lot when they're like, if they're trying to do a thing, they're hitting them. And so for me, Bad Monkey, Silo, and Shrinking are all just great TV for 2024. I would recommend all of them. They're not perfect. Bad Monkey's not perfect. It's just a whole lot of fun. Shrinking, however, it hit me this year in ways that I didn't expect. One of the themes had to do with forgiveness, and I thought that they did it in a very, very beautiful way. And I just, it's got content. It's an adult film. It's an adult show, adult series. Like they say bad words and stuff like that, but like
not adult in that way that
you know what I
like
mean.
Driving down the highway.
It's for grown-ups. How's that?
Right. Oh yeah. It's not a kid's show. Yeah.
It's not a kid's show. But I just, the theme of forgiveness that showed up in that show for 2024, I would just recommend that to anybody. Especially if you loved Ted Lasso, I think you will love Shrinking. It's different. Harrison Ford is like phenomenal in it. But Shrinking, I would recommend. And then the ones that are outside the Apple TV realm for me, The Bear this year was great. Very different character study, not quite as tight as maybe the first season or whatever, but like I just thought it was great. And then the biggest surprise for me for 2024, the one that I enjoyed watching the most with my daughter that I didn't expect to be very good, was Fallout on Amazon Prime. Sci-fi video game movie series, but like crazy cool how they did it, and really unlike anything that I've really kind of seen, the way that they kind of handled it. It was very well done. Ella Purnell is one of the actresses. She's kind of the main person in it. She's terrific. And so I just like, if you're looking for TV series that you haven't jumped into and you like the stuff we like, I think you'll like these things for sure.
Cool. Shrinking has always sort of been on my like radar. Like I should love this, because it's got Harrison Ford, and I've had Harrison Ford season tickets, since since Empire Strikes Back. Let's face it, he's been my number one guy. It's him or Cruise, or number one. And so it's one I need to check out. It's interesting to me that he has done so much TV lately. I know that everyone's doing TV, but I think Leo is the last one to not do TV. He did a streamer movie, but a couple of them. But it's just interesting that everybody's doing TV now. All right, My final category, Jay, and then we'll get to yours. The final category. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about fun memories from the last year. And we had the podcast experience. We had, all those things were great memories. But I thought about an opportunity that you and I got. And I think one of my favorite memories from 2024 is you and I were asked to go back to our college. And you are wearing the Union University colors there. I see your sweater, your hoodie. Go Dogs. That's where we first met. We were asked to go back to our college, our fraternity, where we met, where we spent our days and enjoyed our time in college, and speak at our Founders Day event back in March of 2024. And one of the things that you and I did in our book, The Dead Rock Stars, that is just one of those fun things you get to do when you're the author. Like you're driving the boat. You can take it where you want. Is we wrote a bunch of our friends into the book, a bunch of the characters, the people that we met from our life. We wrote them into the book in a certain way, either by using their name. Some of them we out and out described characters that were basically based on them.
Yeah.
And one of them happens to be in the very first chapter of our book. You meet a character named Langston. I think we call him Jason the Bull Langston. In real life, his name is Jeremy Moose Langston. But we kept the Langston part just because, he was a character. He's a guy that was a lot of fun. And Moose, that's what we call him, loved so much that we put him in the book. He was like, when he found out that he was a character in our book, he was like a proud papa passing out cigars when a child has been born, talking about, hey, they made me a character in the book. I'm a character in the book. Like he was so excited. And of course, we saw him, long before the book was ever published, told him, hey, man, you're in the book. He got the book. He read it. He actually read a book. I think he said, is like the second book he's ever read in his life. I'm maybe exaggerating, but I don't believe he's read a lot. He's a very successful man. He does good things, but reading is not high on his priority list. And he read the whole book. He loved it. We were at a book party with Moose, and he went and spoiled the end to everyone in the room. Everyone that he could tell within earshot, he spoiled kind of the way the book ended. But at our Founders Day, when you and I got to stand in front of our fraternity brothers and a whole bunch of kids that we don't know who are in the fraternity today, and read the section in our book where Moose's fate is determined. I'm not going to say what happens to Bull. We call him Bull in the book, but where Jason Bull Langston, where his fate is determined, and read it with him in the room. That was one of my favorite memories from 2024. What a joy it was to be able to do that, and several other guys that we named characters after. Who were in the room popped up in that chapter. And I just thought that was really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How cool to be able to, you write characters into a story and then get to read that story with them in the audience. I think that was pretty fun.
Yeah. That was
pretty
special.
Cool memory.
That's great, man. That was a cool thing to be able to, I guess, in a way be honored and at the same time honor people and celebrate kind of what we've done with the Dead Rock Stars. And that's a great memory. Thank you for even reminding me. There's been 2024 is a crazy year. And that was something that happened, I think, February?
That was March. March. Yeah.
So it was a little early on, and to go back and think about that, that's fantastic.
If you go back to the Facebooks, there is actually a picture of us as we took turns reading paragraphs as we were reading that, that section or whatever. And there's a point where, I think you're pointing at somebody who as his character is something's happening to his character. You're pointing at him as I'm reading. It's a great picture that you can find on Facebook. I don't know if it's your page or mine, probably both of our pages. Yeah. But anyway, so that was fun. I wanted to highlight one of my favorite memories from 2024. And I
love it. That's great. We've talked about in the past kind of the differences in our musical kind of acumen. It's probably not the right word, but let's say
taste.
Yeah, taste, interest. Kyle is a man who likes his music like some people like their whiskeys or their wines. He likes them aged. He likes them to have kind of been around. And
I like it tried and true. Yeah. I don't want to have to discover something. I want already to know that it's great before I get into it.
And I'm kind of a discovery guy. And so I just wanted to mention some names of some artists that if you are interested in maybe finding some music that you didn't expect, or maybe you've been listening to music and you didn't really know it was the person because it's in commercials or it's wherever else, but just a couple people's names that you should look into if you're looking for some new music. And then I wanted to just talk about 2 highlights and then one to look forward to in 2025 that I think you'll appreciate, Kyle. Hosier had a big year. He put out some great music, and that song "Too Sweet" is a earworm. So I would
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I definitely look into that. Noah Kahan for me was someone that I jumped on that party late. He put out an album, I don't know, 2022, and it's been kind of owning the charts. Like he's still charted a lot in 24. His songs are heartbreaking, but they are powerful when it comes to just the way he delivers them and the effectiveness with which he tells his story. And it's very powerful. And I just would really recommend spending some time with Noah Kahan. Teddy Swims is the same way.
Was Noah Kahan the guy on the Nate Bargatze special where every song's about New Hampshire or whatever, or Connecticut or something like that?
Yeah, Maine, I think.
Maine, yeah. I don't remember what New England state it was about, but that was the big joke that every song is about.
No, it is.
Yeah,
he does a good job of representing. Teddy Swims is another one that I would just say look for. You've heard him. You didn't know it was Teddy Swims, but that guy's got a great story, and he seems to be genuinely loving what he's doing. And kind of one that's a little bit more obscure that I just have enjoyed a whole lot over the last year is Glass Animals. If you're looking for something that's just a little offbeat, a little different, Glass Animals is really, really good. 2 albums that I keep coming back to over and over for 2024. First one we talked about quite a bit, and that would be 21 Pilots' album Clancy. Start to finish, it's an excellent album. The other one that surprised me and came out of nowhere because he didn't say anything about it, and he just released it, and he released it on a record day. And then he said, there's no name to this album, and there's no track numbers, no other than track numbers. Jack White put out an album called No Name, and it's some of his best work that he's done in years. And the songs are just excellent. And you can listen to that whole album straight through over and over and not be disappointed. And there's some different tones to what he does in this than some of his other stuff. But, one of the last tried and true rock stars of our generation anyway.
Yeah.
Highly recommend going and visiting the No Name album by Jack White.
Yeah.
Have 2025.
Let me ask you real quick. Have you ever seen the It Might Get Loud documentary with Edge and Jimmy Page and Jack White? Man, what a great documentary that was.
That is a great documentary.
A lot of fun.
We could talk about that for another hour.
Yeah.
In 2025, there's an album coming out that's already getting a lot of positive press. There's a single out that's doing really well, and that is the offspring of Bono, Inhaler. They've got a good song out right now that I really like, and they've got an album coming out very soon, and so you should be on the lookout for Inhaler.
Yeah, I really liked their first album.
Yeah.
I did not care for their second album.
Yeah.
I listened to it a couple of times and I was like, this one doesn't do it for me. But I did see, I'm loyal to my guy Bono. And so I did see that they had a new album coming out. So I'll check that out. I'm definitely interested in the chart of their career. And as we all know, the second album's the hardest, right? The sophomore album's always
sophomore slump. That's
the
right.
hardest. Yeah. Is that all you got? That's
all I got.
The 2025. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, what a great list. If somebody put my feet to the fire and said like, hey, what's your favorite song from 2024? I would have said Too Sweet by Hosier. Cause I heard it, just flipping through the dial on XM one time. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it's like, once you hear it, then you hear it everywhere. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's that song again, and
he recorded it and didn't think much of it, didn't put it on his album and kind of released it as a offshoot, like a rando. And it just exploded.
It took off. Yeah. I was trying to describe him to someone at Thanksgiving, at Christmas. One of my family members, I was like, he looks like Russell Brand. He's got long hair, dark hair. But I think he's Irish. But his sound, he's kind of got this like Motown sort of vibe to his songs, but he sings like, this soul singer,
Yeah.
And when I told him, he did the song a couple years ago, it's probably been like 8 years now, but Take Me to Church, she was like, that was a white guy. I was like, yeah, that's a white Irish guy.
Yeah.
She's like, oh.
I classify him as like, he's also a little angsty. He's almost like the male version of Sinead O'Connor in some ways. Like
a little bit. Yeah.
He kind of rejects a little bit of the fame and the celebrity. And even when he makes choices, like he was on SNL recently and he didn't play the hits. Like he played other stuff. And I thought that was really, fascinating choices.
But he didn't tear up a picture of the Pope. That's helpful.
No, he didn't. Yeah. And he'll probably get invited back. So,
well, I thought we'd close out our show with two things. The way we always close every show, we'll do that second. But first, I thought we would talk a little bit about some of our goals for 2025. We have started writing book 2, Dead Rockstars book 2. We don't have a title for it. Working title, Dead Rockstars book 2. But we have got some ideas in the hopper. We have got 2 chapters written. They're not like in stone chapters. I have half a chapter written because my chapter that I wrote went too long. And so all the stuff I was supposed to cover in that one chapter ended up, carrying it over to a second chapter. But I'm really excited, Jay, about the ideas we have, where we want to go. You talked about when you were talking about Dune 2, about, how hard sort of the second, we've made no secrets. We want to write a trilogy. And so this is the second book or the second piece in the story. So how do you pick up where you left off? How do you carry a story that can have a conclusion in a third book? What has to happen in that time? How have these characters grown? How have they developed? What's happening in the world? That's, that the time in which the book is set, all those things. Are there other dead rock stars out there that we're going to meet? There's all kind of things that we, have talked about, some ideas that we have that I'm really excited about. And so I thought, this is on Kyle. I know we're a creative marriage here, but so we have to work together on this. But I thought, I think an ambitious goal for us for 2025 would be to say we have 15 chapters written, to write 15 chapters this year.
I felt I agree. I had a number in my head, and that was the number
15.
So I think that's what our goal is.
There it is.
I think it's that's a little bit more than one a month, and that's moving, but it can happen. And so I think 15 should be our goal.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Now, when we wrote book 1, most of the time we did it in sections of 4. We would say, you'll write the first 2, I'll write the second 2, or you write the first, I write the second, third, you write the fourth, something like that. We kind of had that mixture. So I think there's a way to do it. But we started writing Dead Rock Stars in September of 2018, and we finished in like May of 2023. So it was a little less than 5 years. I think we can do this in less than 5 years. I think we can do the second one in less than 5 years.
I do too.
I hope.
Yeah. I think we both, I like that goal. It's a great goal. I'm in. Let's do it.
I think it's doable. Yeah.
And, we got some work to do. We better get after it.
Yeah, we do have work to do. Yeah. I think we need to clean up the 2 chapters we've written a little bit. I'd like to shape up this chapter 2.5 and turn it into a full-fledged. That's the word I'm looking for. Full-fledged chapter 3, and let you read that, see what you think about it, and we go from there. But 15 is doable. I think we can do 15. What is this? The book, the first one's 33, 32, 33
it's
chapters.
In the 30s, like 32 or 33.
Yeah. So that would get it pretty close to halfway. Yeah. No, 36 chapters. Wow, that's more than I remembered. So yeah, I think if we got to 15, that would get us pretty close to halfway. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited about the story that we want to tell.
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do it. So Kyle, tell me what you've learned today. What have you learned today, Kyle?
Whew. Man, that's a good question. I learned that, and I've probably known this, but I know that you love Apple TV Plus like no one I know. every episode, you're like, Apple TV Plus, we got this show coming out. And I'm like, oh man, that's the one. That's not true, but it's definitely one of the streamers that I don't have.
Yeah, you probably think it because you don't have it. And you're like, do I have to invest?
Do I have to shell off the $6.99 a month or whatever, whatever it is?
I get it.
when Lasso comes back. That's what got us into it when it first came out. I was like, well, everybody's watching this Ted Lasso show. I guess I better watch it.
Yeah.
You know, and then I just forgot to cancel it.
Yeah.
But I do want to watch Shrinking. I think that's the one that's got me the most excited about, you know, possibly reinvesting in Apple TV Plus.
I learned today that you're quite a thoughtful and considerate guy, and you remember a lot of things from the year. Like you didn't just run through the year, but you really spent time thinking about it. And I just loved hearing kind of your take on some of the stuff we did this past year. I'm an on to the next kind of guy sometimes, and very focused on where we're headed, and not so much where we've been. And I loved today thinking about, and I guess relearning some of the great experiences that we had in 2024. So thanks for this idea, man. Thanks for leading the podcast tonight. And this is episode 9. Is this double digits? Are we double
10.
digits?
I think this is episode 10. Yeah.
We're rounding out season 1.
Yeah.
And I think we're really learning it. We're going to go to the drawing board. But back to the drawing board for season 2, but after we take a little time. But I've had a great time. So thanks, man. Thank you for walking me down a great memory lane.
Yeah, it was fun. You know, being on podcast was something I never thought I would do, much less having our own. You know, how crazy is that? Yeah. When you realize that it's not that hard to do it, you know.
Now we make it harder than it is. Like some of the stuff that we do, we try to make it nicer. Like, you know, you don't have to do it that nice. You could just throw a microphone up and go. And I mean, we've experienced some.
We have experienced that. We have experienced that. So, well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. It has been an awesome year of promoting Dead Rock Stars. We'd love for you to discover it if you haven't yet. If you got this far in this podcast and you have not read the Dead Rock Stars yet, just shame on you at this point. Shame on you.
Yeah.
I'm teasing. But that's the whole reason why we're doing this. We enjoy chatting. We figured we'd chat for the world, but also to help people find our book.
I thought it was for the reels. I thought that's why we're doing this.
The reels are fun, man. They're a lot of work, but they're fun.
All right, buddy. Well, I hope you have a good night. It's great talking
New Year.
Happy New Year to you. With that, we're gonna rock on out of here.
Peace.